primarily during the late morning period. I spent some time working on this satchel sort polystring ball drawing project, as I'm currently sorting the hues of red and pink from lightest to darkest. Here's where I left off when I recall working on editing and uploading the November 11 my dinner video for my YouTube channel. I recall it being uploaded sometime during the late morning, early afternoon period. I'm leaning towards late morning. As I recall, roughly from 12:30 p.m. to about 2:30 p.m. So for 2 hours or so, from what I recall, helping my dad by picking up acorns on his front yard. If this represents the whole front yard, I kind of started from here and went that way. On this way, I didn't encounter that many acorns, but encountered quite a bit of acorns more towards here. And that's kind of where I left off. I recall waking up for today during the first hours of today. Over these past handful of days, I've been gradually returning to a normal sleep schedule. Naturally. around 6:30 in the morning. Dad gave me the last two sort of kuchen pastries that Dad's mom made at home for us and then gave to Dad during a visit. I had those with my first cup of plain coffee for today. Based on my recollection. Had those two small pastries with my first cup of plain coffee, and then around 8:15 in the morning, I had some of the leftover fried dough that Dan and I got from Perry's Pizzeria pub location yesterday. The Perry's Pizzeria pub location. I had that leftover fried dough with, I think it was my third cup of plain coffee. Third cup of plain coffee at that time. And I recall having 3 full cups and possibly a partial 4th cup roughly from 6:30 in the morning to about 9:30 in the morning. I recall around 3:30 p.m. us leaving to briefly go by our local mall. so Dad could pay off a credit card at our local Macy's store. Yeah, which is kind of the size of a supermarket. In a way, would be a mall within a mall if it had a restaurant inside it. We were only briefly in that Macy's, and even then, only explored a very small section of it. We just briefly went in so Dad could pay off a credit card there. Then over the next half hour, Dan and I went to an Americanized Chinese restaurant that wasn't too far away. As at the time, both at the time and in the half hour or so before we left, for that Macy's, I had mild cravings for Asian food. As lately we had been having a lot of pizza. When we walked inside of the restaurant, which within it seemed to contain a sort of shadow box or something similar to it, maybe some kind of display case that took up most of a wall. But within that display case, it was some kind of drawing / painting and there were also smallish sculptures maybe about basketball size that seemed to have been made using Legos. Upon getting to the counter and picking up a paper menu, Dad noticed that the place we went to offered party trays, of which we opted for Dragon and Phoenix. And I had my first helping of it around 4:45 p.m. with a glass of milk, whole milk, and a cup of cold brew plain coffee that was left in our refrigerator. I recall during the mid to late morning period, Uh, Dad told me we got email notifications regarding the Bills tickets we won at Salvatore's at least 2 or so weeks ago. You got a notification regarding the game next week. As you told me about it, so I looked for a notification regarding the tickets for today's game. It turns out I had also received an email notification. I followed its instructions, set up a Ticketmaster account, and Dan and I worked together on my laptop to put the 2 tickets for today's game up for sale. For $75 each. Since Dan had no intention of having us go to the game. Though, ultimately, I checked later, after waking up after falling asleep, somewhere between right around 6:30 p.m. was when I fell asleep. Unfortunately, the tickets didn't sell. Maybe perhaps no buyer found them. It was kind of last minute, but it seemed like someone would be interested. Ticketmaster's initial recommended price was $90 each. Yeah, and the price we sold on was initially lower. Something like 60. It went from 90 to 60 before finally settling on 75. It was nice to help my dad by picking up acorns and putting them into a sort of wax paper basket. At times it felt a bit like meditation. Being without electronics for a bit, feeling the cool temperature outside on the cloudy day, partially cloudy, and occasionally feeling the sunlight on myself. It was pretty relaxing at the times. For the most part, I picked up the acorns by sitting on the front yard, while occasionally squatting to pick up the acorns.